Hello everyone, my name is Lowko, and today we are checking out a strategy game that's been in early access for about a year now, called Mechabellum. I get a lot of game recommendations from viewers all the time, especially when it comes to new strategy games, and this is one of those games that's been recommended to me over and over and over again. So when the publishers of Mechabellum recently reached out, Paradox Arc, and asked if I wanted to do a sponsored video, I figured it was the perfect opportunity for me to go ahead and give it a try. So thank you very much to Paradox Arc for sponsoring this video. Mechabellum, it's a game that's an auto-battling strategy war game, where the goal is to try and out-strategize your opponent throughout multiple turns. In StarCraft 2, there's an arcade map called Direct Strike that I've been playing for many years now, and Mechabellum, in a way, very much so reminds me of it. Now, a word of warning for those of you that have been playing Mechabellum for some time already. I have only played this game for maybe 4 hours or so at this point, so please don't cringe too hard at my decision making. There's a lot of strategic depth to all of the different unit interactions, and I simply at this point have not played enough hours yet to really get to the bottom of all of the details. But I think at this point I know enough to give you a general overview of what a 1v1 match in Mechabellum would be all about. Now, if you're interested in checking out this game, I'll go ahead and post a link to the Steam page down below in the description of this video. Now, one of the advantages of playing against the AI is that I get a lot more time to think about my decisions. Apparently, I get all the way up to 10,000 seconds. If you're playing against actual humans, that would be considered a little bit on the long end of things, but I think it's going to be perfect for explaining my decision making. So, at the beginning of a game, you get a choice of the different starting specialists. There are quite a few different options. Apparently, I have these four. So I have the cost control specialist, the rhino specialist, the quick supply specialist, and then also the marksman specialist. All of the different specialists have a different starting hit point count. So the goal in this game is to try to reduce your opponent's HP count to 0, as you may have already guessed, whilst keeping your own above 0. And I'm assuming they're actually balancing the game by saying, for example, the quick supply specialist, this one seems to have a lot of success. We'll give her a little bit less initial starting HP, so that will, I guess, balance the game quite deliberately. There's a couple of different choices you have to make right from the start. So first off, for example, I have the cost control specialist if I want to. She will get an additional 100 supplies, which is basically the resource you use to buy stuff in the game, per round, but decreases the attack of units and their HP by 13%. There's the rhino specialist over here. I get a level 2 rhino, which is one of the units for free on round 4. The quick supplies, I obtain 200 supplies in the first round, and then we have the marksman specialist too, where I start with a free level 3 marksman. Besides that though, besides the hit points and then also the different specialities, we get different starting units. So every single one of the specialists has a different combination of starting units. For example, the cost control specialist over here starts with the arc light and then also the phoenix. We have a steel ball over here together with a crawler. And I think I'm going to be going with the quick supply specialist because it's the easiest one to go over. And I'll be getting a Fang, which is a cheap and available in large quantity type of unit, a light all-purpose bot, and then I also have a heavy rocket launcher available right from the start. So the speciality here is that I get an additional 200 supplies in the very first round. Alrighty, so this is what the beginning of a game of Mechabellum looks like. Roughly speaking, this game takes place in 2 different phases. First off, we have the buying and selling and positioning phase, the one that we are in right now, where I can take my troops and I can position them wherever I like. And then we have the auto-battling phase, where I basically will end my deployment over here. In a multiplayer match, you would have to wait until your opponent also hits end deployment or until the timer runs down to 0. And then the units will battle automatically. Now, if you end up winning the fight, you end up dealing damage to your opponent's hit point count. So you can see that right over here in the top right-hand corner of the screen. If you end up losing the fight, naturally, you will end up losing hit points too. I win the game if I get my opponent's HP count all the way down to 0. And, well, I lose if I get mine all the way reduced to 0. I can hover over these buttons over here in the top right-hand corner to see, for example, what my opponent has played. So he's got the heavy armor specialist, which increases the HP of all units by 17%. Now, in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you can see the units that I currently have unlocked. This is dependent on the starting specialist that you choose. So, for example, say I want to make another Fang over here, I can click on this button, and I will spawn in another group of Fangs. I can make only 2 troops per round, so you have to be a little deliberate with what you spend your resources on. Besides the Fang, I could have also decided to make another Stormcaller. I have these over here right in the middle of the battlefield here. So these heavy rocket launchers. They have a movement speed of 6 meters a second. And the same can be said right here for the Fangs. So these I would consider to be my damage dealers. Whereas these are mostly just going to be a nuisance to my opponent. They're going to try and soak up as much damage as possible. So the way that I've been playing it so far. And again, there's infinite possibility as far as unit positioning rather goes. The way I've been playing it so far is that I'm using my Fangs over here. There's another very cheap unit too that you can unlock called, where is it? The Crawler, very cheap unit as well that I may be playing in a little bit. That unit is also great at soaking up damage, but I've been positioning them in such a way that I can protect my Stormcaller. So the Stormcallers really are heavy damage dealers, at least at this stage in the game, and I want to try and keep them protected to the best of my abilities. So I think I'm going to be positioning my Stormcallers somewhat like that, and then I'll be moving some of my Fangs around too. I can hit the middle mouse key to position them, for example, behind these command centers, these towers over here, the research tower. And if I have them attack moving in that direction, they will, somewhat spread around these towers, and they seem to fan out quite a bit, which means that I have a little bit more potential here to, well, hopefully annoy my opponent with these units for as long as possible. So, you can only position your troops in this game a single time. That is something very important to note, because if you position them once and you don't like the way that they are set up, there are different ways you can move them with like special abilities and whatnot, but that is basically the formation you're set with for the rest of the game. Now, obviously, I can't tell what my opponent has done. I just know what he's got. So there's a Mustang over here, a high-speed, all-purpose unit. They're going to be pretty dang good at, well, killing my Fang. He's also got some crawlers here, so those are the other cheap units. I'm going to try and have my Stormcallers deal as much damage as possible. Hopefully, we have a first wave of Fangs coming in. They're going to be soaking some of the damage, and then the second wave will also join in just a little bit. Now, besides the units that I have at the very start of the game, I can unlock multiple other units too. And there seems to be a couple of different categories. So we have these free to unlock units. So that's like the research cost that you have to pay the very first time. There seem to be 4 of those. Then you have units that are slightly more expensive. Then over here, we've got units that at some point cost 100 resources. So I have 200 supplies currently available. And then all the way at the bottom, we have very expensive units where, well, the most expensive one is called the War Factory, a super giant mobile factory, good at manufacturing units and using overwhelming firepower to strike enemies. The thing about the War Factory, that besides a very expensive cost, it also has a maintenance fee of 200 per round, which is kind of ridiculous. Anyways, the way you get additional supplies is by, well, just waiting. So every single turn you get some resources. You can save resources too for the next turn if you want to. So say, for example, I don't really want to do anything else with my money right now. These 200 supplies that I have left over will be available in round 2. Now, one unit that I've been liking quite a bit is called the Vulcan, a giant crowd control bot. This costs 200 supplies to unlock, and it's going to be good against both the Crawler as well as the Mustang from my opponent. So I think in this round what I'll do is I'll spend those 200 credits here. And maybe this is a terrible play. Honestly, it's going to require a lot of experimentation, but I'm going to go ahead and spend my 200 credits here to unlock the Vulcan, and I'm planning on making one of those in the next round. If you have no idea how to position your units, you can go with the recommended formation. I think this is a setup from other players that are much better at the game than me, but I kind of like positioning my units the way that I have set it up right now, even though it might be a little suboptimal. I guess that is the absolute best way for me to learn. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and click End Deployment, at which point these units will automatically battle. So here we go. I will also see what my opponent's setup is now going to be like, so you can tell that they have been spread out all over the battlefield. Hopefully my Stormcallers here will be relatively protected. You can see that I have some of the units right now coming in from the flank, and they should also help keep everything alive for just a little bit longer. Yeah. Okay, so good bit of damage done right over there on the left flank. Right flank is not looking nearly as healthy, but I think we should turn out to be reasonably okay. It's a little hard to tell. No friendly fire, by the way, on some of these troops. Okay, so the enemy has started working right now on one of my towers, but it's also forcing them to stand still. I love the cinematic camera view, by the way. All right, looks like this first round will eventually be won by the opponent. But I think we can survive it. Okay, so at the beginning of every round, you gain access to one of these 4 cards. And as far as I can tell, these are, once again, completely randomized. So there's a little bit of RNG, a little bit of randomness to each of the games, but that does really add an extra layer of strategy. So I can choose to, for example, get the extended range War Factory. So I love the War Factory. I do kind of want to make one just to show you what it's like. This would be a free thing for me to get. Keep in mind that I want to buy one of those expensive units that cost me 400 credits as well. So getting the heavy armor, while I do like the idea, might not be optimal. You know what? I think I'm just going to get it. I will show you what the extended range War Factory looks like here later. That'll be a late game play for now, I guess. So what I want to do is get the Vulcan, a giant crowd control bot. Now we can tell over here that my opponent has got a lot of the little units mostly leaning towards the left, right? So what I can do is place this big boy somewhere over on the left side of the screen. This thing moves at 6 meters a second, much like the others. This is a giant crowd control robot. I really wanted to be fighting those 4 groups right over here on the left. So I can see, by the way, what my opponent's setup was in the previous round, but I can't see what he's currently producing. One of these troops over here, the crawler, actually has a little arrow above its head, meaning that it can be upgraded. I'll go over that in just a moment when we do get one of those things myself as well, or when we do get one of those things ourselves, but eventually I guess I'm going to be aiming for the War Factory because I do have that upgrade available. But I think for now I'm going to be putting it right over here. The Vulcan has nearly 37,000 health. Significantly more than one of these Fangs, but I would still like my opponent to be busy fighting my small units here if I can. So it has a movement speed of 6 meters a second, much like everything else. And what is this bottom button? That's the range of the unit. Yeah, so it's got 95 range compared to this 75 right here of the Fangs. So the Fangs here should swoop in front of all of this. And I think this is a decent setup. So I'm going to be ending my deployment here. And we'll see what my opponent has added into the mix. It looks like he's actually added a lot more small units once again. So I'm hoping here that my Vulcan is going to be able to put in some work. As you can see, those flamethrowers, pretty good. Yeah, pretty good when it comes to roasting all of my opponent's units. All right, this looks like a much better run for me. Looks like actually my big boy Vulcan is going to be moving on over towards the left side of the battlefield here. I am going to end up losing my research center once again, but that'll be okay. Yeah, there's going to be a bit of a slow activated right now because my structure ended up getting destroyed. I would like to protect that right side flank a little bit more. You know what? I can do that by maybe making another one of these Vulcans. I don't think that would be a bad choice. Okay, so I'm ultimately going to be losing all my troops at home, but I still have quite a few of these Fangs left over. There's no way the Vulcan itself is going to be losing the fight. And only a handful of troops now remain. Ultimately, my units would be going after the command center over here too, but just to make sure that the game, doesn't go on for every round, I guess, doesn't go on for a very long time. It will auto-destroy as soon as all of my opponent's units are dead. Alrighty. So, now I get $600. We end up getting, a Typhoon if I want to, a Melting Point, a Fortress, or a Saber-Tooth. You know what? I think I'm going to go for the Typhoon here. Again, not entirely sure if it's the best choice. But I will get access to them immediately. And I think I'm going to be putting them on the right side. Similar idea as my previous unit here, the Vulcan. I want to try and have them deal as much damage here to these small groups of units here as possible. So this is a heavy all-purpose mecha that I can now easily produce more of as well if I want to. And it's already level 2. So this is what I was trying to bring up earlier. You can see that after a certain amount of damage dealt, units will get an upgrade available. So I can, for example, now upgrade my units over here to level 2. So the Stormcallers now are a little bit stronger than the other Stormcallers right over here on the right. Every single unit has an XP bar, so you can tell, for example, that the Fang here, well, it's slowly filling in. It's been leveling up. The Vulcan will probably, after this round, be upgradable as well. That'll be neat because I can, get more HP and more damage out of it that way. So the units do get quite a bit more powerful when you do upgrade them. Because I ended up getting that card just now, that upgrade for the War Factory, I am thinking about unlocking it already, even though it does feel a little bit greedy. Ah, you know what? I'm just gonna get it. What the heck? I'm just gonna go ahead and unlock it here immediately, and then we'll try and see if we can make a war factory in the next round. I would like to add a little bit more of a buffer in front of all of my troops. So I think I'm gonna make 2 additional sets right now of fangs. So we're just adding on some more here to try and keep everything alive for a little bit longer. Same over here on the right side. I'm gonna be moving those on over in that direction. So they should have a relatively easy time covering that right side flank. I could, by the way, also be positioning my troops over here, which is kind of a neat idea. Can be quite nice if you see an obvious weakness in your opponent. The only downside with putting your units over here on the flanks is that they take a little bit of time before they actually spawn in. So there are opportunities for that, but unless you're 100% certain, I think it's a little bit better to just put them over here in the battlefield. Because basically when you first spawn them, it takes like 5, maybe 10 seconds or so before they actually get deployed. And whilst they are, I guess, being teleported in or being warped in, whatever, they're vulnerable and they obviously can take damage, but they won't deal damage yet. Whereas if I put them right over here, they will spawn right at the very beginning of the game. Now, there's a couple of things worth noting. Every single one of the unit types can be upgraded from their levels alone, right? So for example, like I just showed you, I have these level 2 Typhoons because that's what I got from the cards. And then I also have the level 2 Stormcallers. However, a group of units, so this is for individual sets like that. A group of units can also be upgraded, a category of units, with these upgrades over here at the bottom. So I have loads of fangs set up right now. One thing that I definitely want to be keeping an eye out on is these upgrades here at the bottom. So I can get range enhancement, I can get mechanical rage, for example. This one I found to be quite powerful. It increases the unit's movement speed by 5 and reduces the attack interval by 0.5, meaning that they should be able to get in front of the troops that I want to protect a little bit easier. So if I have 300 credits left over at some point, I would very much so like to get that upgrade because it applies to every single one of the fangs. So individual unit upgrades only count to, well, those individual groups. The upgrades that you get over here are for the entire unit type. So every single one of them on the battlefield is going to get upgraded. I could also get sentry missiles, which is kind of cool. These are a single-use sentry missile that detonates near the enemy, dealing 5,000 damage and slowing them. This is something I can position over here if I want to. I don't think I really need to waste the 50 credits on it, but nah. I was going to show you. Well, you know what? I'm going to just put it down here. I guess I'm going to put it down right over here. I had the 50 credits. This is going to disappear after the round. But yeah, it will deal some damage when enemies get close. So that'll be the 3rd round done. I'm going to be ending my deployment and we'll see how things go. Looks like my opponent now has also added in some big boy units. Let's see how good my Typhoons will do. There's a bunch of Sabertooth right over here in the middle, by the way. Not to be underestimated. My Vulcan still having a grand old time. Yeah, I definitely need something against these heavier targets from my opponent now, but it looks like my Stormcallers, actually, the ones that I just upgraded, are putting in quite a bit of work there. Yeah, you know what? Same can be said right over here on the right side. So it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to add maybe a couple more of them into the mix. Looks like their marksman is going to get absolutely destroyed. And there it is. We win another one of the rounds. And this one should actually start hurting the opponent quite a bit, yeah. Loads of damage taken. All right, excellent. Ah, I can get a missile strike. Launches a guided missile that deals 3,000 damage. I'll go ahead and show you what that's like too. So this is I guess you can consider it a spell or a cooldown right over here on the left side of the screen. So it launches a guided missile that deals 3,000 damage. I can deploy these every couple of rounds. Some of them have longer cooldowns, some of them have shorter cooldowns, but I think I'm going to put it right over here to try and soften up those big boy units right there for my opponent. So when the round begins, these hopefully will be taking a lot of damage right from the beginning, very beginning. Now, I was going to go for the War Factory, but I think what I'm going to do instead is upgrade some of my troops. I would also like to get another Stormcaller if I can. Problem with the War Factory is that it's gonna be very expensive to maintain as well. So 200 maintenance fee every round is a lot. So I think I'm going to be upgrading. This guy also has sort of deserved it, right? The Vulcan is very powerful. Don't know so much about upgrading the Fangs. I may be adding on another group of Stormcallers here, because they seem to be quite powerful. And I think I am indeed going to be getting the Mechanical Rage research too for my Fangs. You can see suddenly all of those troops get a nice little boost. think I'll just get another one, honestly. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna put another one right over here, maybe. Maybe in the back. Now that they have some more movement speed. Yeah, I'll allow some over here in the back to swoop in and maybe serve as like a second wave of protection. I don't have the money anymore for upgrading, so we'll leave it be. Pay attention right there to the missile. It should launch pretty quick. There we go. There are some that take, like for example the nuke, that take like 15 seconds to deploy, which I have learned the hard way. Looks like my fangs on the right side, by the way, are dealing quite a bit of, or they're putting in quite a bit of work too. They are indeed arriving here in the middle of battle, which is good. Maybe I should have positioned them ever so slightly further forward, but looks like my Stormcallers really are powerful. Yeah. Super nice. Vulcan still not entirely countered here yet by my opponent. You can tell that even though it might not be the preferred choice against these heavy hitters from my opponent, it is still certainly not a bad choice. Alrighty. That should be another round in the pocket. And a good bit of damage right there done to my opponent's HP count once again. I really want to get the big boy unit out, so I'm going to be picking the free Scorpions here. The Scorpions are really sweet when it comes to taking down heavy groups of units. So they're a little bit faster than some of my other troops, so I'm going to be moving them. I'll move one on the right, one on the left. Why not? I would really like to make the War Factory. So this thing is massive. Absolutely huge. The only problem with a unit this large is that it can be quite difficult to position. I guess I'll move it somewhere over here. So hopefully it won't be entirely in the way. Increases the splash damage and range by 5 meters, but decreases the attack by 40%. I don't think I want that on the Stormcallers here. I don't think that's quite worth it. Instead, I think I'll be spending my resources here on just upgrading the troops. Yeah. Why not? Let's make them a little bit more powerful. Okay, end the deployment. Let's see. So the War Factory deals a stupid amount of damage. The only thing is that it does not hit air. There are no air units currently in the game. Well, not in this particular game that we're playing right now. But those would have been a pretty good choice. My opponent did, by the way, decide to go for a fortress. So a giant guard robot. But I think my opponent is going to have a really hard time dealing with all of the troops that I have put out on the battlefield right now. There we go. Easy peasy win. This one wasn't even particularly close. Great round. Great round. Okay. 14 health. 14 health is all that remains right now for my opponent. The Advanced Firepower Control System. So this is really powerful. So the attacks of the units equipped with this item is increased by 200. So that's 300 of my credits down the drain. I can give this to one of my units if I want to. Now, not every unit is eligible, as you can tell right here. But, I mean, I have been upgrading some of my units already. I kind of feel like even though the Vulcan doesn't need it, I would like to give it to him because this one has been the... What? No. Did I just accidentally give it to the wrong unit? Ay, 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 ay. I wanted to be giving it to my Vulcan. Okay, fine. You guys deserve the upgrade then. Nice micro, Loco. Well done. Every Fang obtains an energy shield that absorbs damage equal to the unit's HP and can block at least one You know what? It's very expensive. That's my piggy bank smashed. But I think that should seal the deal. And at the very least, this makes me not feel too bad about accidentally putting that unit item on the wrong unit. I don't think the Fang is a very good choice for such an expensive item. Anyways. Maybe you can actually reposition the items. I'm not 100% certain. But I think we've got this one in the bag. Yeah, ever since the Vulcan was put out into the battlefield and we could get rid of my opponent's large hordes of units, it's been looking very, very good for me. They do have a Wraith at this point, by the way, which is a flying unit. But it doesn't really matter. I have enough anti-air here in my ground troops that I can absolutely destroy my opponent. GG. Okay, I think I'm going to be choosing the Forest Eye map next, and I'm going to graduate to the Hard AI. Fingers crossed I'm going to do a decent enough job. Now, one of my options here is the Heavy Armor Specialist, which is the one that my opponent just played. The grass is always greener on the other side, right? Let's go ahead and give that a shot. So this is visually at least, a different looking battlefield. I get different starting units. So I have the crawlers now that my opponent had in the previous game, but I do still have my beloved Stormcallers. I really like these units, actually. I think I'm going to do a similar strat once again. Moving them... yeah, maybe around the tower. I think around the tower is pretty good. Let's try and see if we can experiment with our first groups of units set up like that. One of them has to go a little bit further to the front. By the way, what is my opponent playing? A supply specialist. Okay, so they gain additional supplies per round. I feel like this is one of those things that's especially good in the early game, because they will be able to get more units in the early game, and that does add up pretty quickly. He's got crawlers and he's got mustangs. So a high-speed, all-purpose tank. I guess I'll go ahead and unlock the marksman because I can. It's a free unlock and I can only unlock 1 unit per turn, so I may as well. But I'm going to be adding on another one of the Stormcallers in the mix. I would like them to be reasonably well protected. So I think I'm going to be putting them maybe a little bit further back. Kind of hard to say. Again, I can look at what other people are playing. Yeah, they're playing something very different. You know what? Should I give that a try? I feel like this is very dangerous. Okay. Well, you know what? These players are probably much better than me, so let's go ahead and give it a shot. Yeah, they are going to be able to get in front. The crawlers, that is. They move 16 meters a second. So that is very different than what we had in the previous game. Good bit of damage done immediately, but again, it seems like the right side flank is suffering. It's also due to my opponent's starting supplies, though. That really does help out quite a bit. I guess we just have to try and minimize the damage. So I'm being overwhelmed right now by the Mustang. That means we have to try and come up with a counter to that unit. Looks like I am destroying my opponent's tower, by the way, which is nice. My troops have decided to split up. Some of them are running on over towards the command center there on the right. Some of them have decided to return back home. You know what? I thought this first round was actually not going to be that great for me. But I think it'll work out. Yeah. Just barely. But it works. Always nice to get a little bit of momentum going. Decreases the recruitment cost of giant units by 50. Increases the Fang's attack by 40%. I have crawlers, right? Yeah, I have crawlers. I don't have Fangs at this point. I think I'll get the haste module. The movement speed of the units equipped with this item is increased by 5, while the attack is increased by 40%. I would very much so like to give that to one of my units, and I think I'll go with these guys right over here. I think that is nice. Okay. I haven't really played much with the Arclight yet, so I think I want to go ahead and give that one a shot. Easy unlock. Fires an energy beam that can make short work of light units. So I'm going to go ahead and spawn them in. I can go ahead and upgrade these guys in the back as well, which is going to be pretty sweet. But I think I'm going to be moving you on over towards the right. And I would very much so like to have another... maybe I should go Stormcallers. I was thinking about adding on more crawlers, because having nice light units at the very beginning of the game is nice. Because they seem to carry for quite a while. I could also increase the Stormcaller range. Lots of different options available, really. Okay, you know what? I'm going to be getting the high explosive ammo. Increases the splash damage range by 5 meters, but decreases the attack by 40%. I'm going to be getting that. And then I'll get another group of crawlers that I will try to position... I think somewhere over here. Pretty far in the back again. Okay, ending my deployment. I want to keep my supplies as low as possible here. Mostly because I know my opponent is getting a really nice boost as far as that goes. So let's see how the Arclight does. Okay. Well, if it's set up like this, Hopefully it'll be half decent as well against those Mustangs. My opponent, by the way, made a Hacker. The Hacker is a very interesting unit. It basically has a special attack that allows it to take control of enemy units when it completes. Oh, the Arc Light is amazing against the Mustangs. Yeah, so this is that attack I was talking about. Look, now suddenly the Arc Light is theirs. I tried playing this unit. It seems a little gimmicky. I don't think I really want to be messing around with stuff like that all too much at this stage, but I can imagine they can be really powerful to come back into the game. I think I'll get the barrier upgrade. So I can only put this on giant units. I don't have too many of those yet at this point in time, as in literally none. I kind of like the idea of making another one of the Arc Lights. Arc Light did amazing in the previous round. I wonder if there's maybe a little bit too much overlap, though, between the Arc Light and the Stormcaller in my particular setup right now, but I'll be getting 2 more. Why not? So you can only make 2 troops, again, per round, which is something that is worth noting, because if you're not careful, you end up having a lot of credits in the bank, although you can pretty much always upgrade units and get better versions of them, I guess. What are the upgrades for them, by the way? What exactly can I make for you? Causes electromagnetic interference on hit, temporarily disabling the target unit's tech. Okay. Increases the HP by 35. I don't think we really need that. Uses destroyed enemies to create more crawlers. You know what? I got a lot of crawlers of my own. There's a lot of small troops available of my opponent. Let's go ahead and give that a shot. So you can tell here that there is a ton of experimentation. Yeah, so the main unit my opponent added on here was the Hacker. Little sketchy, little scary, but I don't think I really have to hard counter it. They added 1 more in the mix just now. Okay, I seem to be absolutely destroying the enemy on the left side flank. Right side, however, not looking as amazing, but still good enough. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, I think the Hacker is just, it's expensive and it's quite difficult to get value out of. Not in love with that. But hey, works out in my favor in this game. I get 800 now. The main problem, though, I guess, with those big guys is that, with those hackers, is that playing big robots myself can be a little bit risky. I can get some marksmen. Obtains 4 squads of level 2 marksmen. You know what? Yeah. These are early game units generally. But I can put them down. I don't see why not. I'll focus them primarily on the right side. You know what? I haven't really shown you any big flying units yet. The Overlord is a little risky, but I'll unlock it for now. But I think for the time being, in this particular round, I'm going to add on some more skinny, cheap units. I think they call them chaff. And then next round, we'll add on an Overlord as well. But I think this should really secure my advantage. These units, by the way, have a movement speed of 8. Yeah, the crawler should easily get in front. I'm actually going to be moving you guys, these ones over here, a little bit further back. Because I think that it will allow you to get in front a little bit easier. I'd very much so like you to target the... maybe I should move you all the way over here? I would like you guys, the marksmen, to snipe down the hackers. Yeah, so this one is already targeted on top of the one on the left. Maybe I'll move you over there too. You know what? There you go. Let's give that a shot. They've also added on a Rhino now, which is good against my small troops. But they do have to get into combat first. Now I kind of wish I put one of those marksmen in the middle. But I didn't know. I think I'm still dealing with it just fine. Hacker on the left, by the way. Not achieving much. Let's see what the hacker on the right can do. Yeah, you can see that their hacker is actually just overwhelmed with my small units. The marksman should be able to shut these down relatively easily. Yep, easy. Very good round. A lot of damage dealt again to the bot. Boom. I now have $1,000 to my name. Ooh, increases the movement speed of all units by 3. I don't know about that. You know what? I'll get an elite steel ball instead. Okay. Gonna spawn them in. And then I'll also go... I mean, I promise you the Overlord. And I think I'm in a pretty safe spot right now. I'm gonna be putting that one right over here. So this is a giant aircraft. It does move relatively quickly. Gotta be careful I don't just lose it straight up. These, by the way, are very good at countering those... I think I'm gonna put them right over here. Countering those troops. They are elites, meaning that they're already level 3. I still have 150 supplies available. I think I'm actually gonna be upgrading... Yeah, my loneliest and littlest guys. Here we go. Let's see. Can we bring it home? Cinematic camera is actually really cool. Yeah, the automatic camera is sweet. You can also control the camera by yourself if you want to. But I've been mostly playing with the automatic camera today, and it's been really fun. But yeah, I can turn it off. So manual camera is definitely also a choice. I kind of like the automatic one. It looks like I am absolutely overwhelming the opponent here. And it seems that I have managed to win the game. I don't know if I can deal enough damage in one round to already win, because they had like 1,000 health here. No, I think I'm good. Yep, absolutely. Wow, okay. They got destroyed. Alrighty, now if you're interested in checking out the game, again, there's a link down below in the description of this video. I highly recommend you go ahead and have a look at the Steam page if you want to learn more. If you do decide to pick it up, the easiest way to really learn all of the basics is to go through what they call the Commander Academy. This takes maybe like a half hour or so to complete every single one of them, and it does give you a good overview of all of the basics, although some of it, at least when I ran through it myself, was a little bit confusing. There's also a survival mode that I haven't really messed around with yet, but I think this is against the AI, and there's basically a lot of different challenge missions. There's practice mode, which is what I was just messing around with myself. You can modify your units too, which is kind of a cool idea. So, for example, say I don't really like all of the upgrades that are available right here on the crawler. I can change one of them out. So I could, well, add a couple of them in. I can change a couple of them out if I want to. And that seems to be something that you can do for every single one of the units. And besides that, of course, there's multiplayer mode where you can play with humans against humans, or you can just focus on 1 versus 1 if you want to. Anyways, I think that about sums up all of the basics that you need to know in order to get started with Mechabellum yourself. Again, shout out to Paradox Arc for sponsoring this video, and shout out to you for watching it. Have an amazing rest of your day, don't forget to smile, and I hope to see you once again very soon for another video.